There comes a moment in life that hurts more than failure, hurts more than rejection, hurts more than betrayal, and that moment is when you finally understand nobody is coming. Yes, hear this carefully. Nobody is coming to carry your broken dreams. Nobody is coming to fight your silent battles. Nobody is coming every morning to inject courage into your veins. We grow up with this invisible fantasy that someone will appear, a loving family member, a loyal friend, a partner, a mentor, a miracle, luck, destiny. Someone will come and say, "Don't worry, I will handle your life for you." But life is not a movie, and rescue is not a life strategy. This world gives sympathy in words, but when the storm truly arrives, everybody runs to save themselves first. And that realization shocks you. It shakes you. It wounds your childish expectations. But listen to me, that wound is the birthplace of your strength. Because the day illusions die, reality starts training you. The day you stop waiting at the window of hope for people to arrive, you finally walk to the door of responsibility and open it yourself. So many people waste 5 years, 10 years, 20 years waiting for emotional support. That never becomes action. They say, if my parents supported me, I would do better. If my spouse understood me, I would heal. If my friends believed in me, I would try. If society gave me a chance, I would rise. No, no. How long will your future remain hostage to someone else's permission? How long will your growth stay parked because others didn't push you? My dear, there are people with no support who built empires, and there are people with full support who still built excuses. Support is beautiful, but it is not mandatory for survival. Your movement cannot depend on applause. Understand this educational truth. Dependency weakens decision-making. When you train your mind to expect rescue, you unconsciously delay action. You become emotionally lazy. You start believing your progress should begin only when someone encourages you. That is dangerous. Very dangerous. Because people are inconsistent. Today they motivate you, tomorrow they are busy. Today they promise, tomorrow they disappear. If your engine runs on external validation, your life will keep stopping at every emotional red light. You need an internal engine. You need self-generated fuel. And yes, loneliness will. This process. There will be nights when you wish someone understood your tears. There will be mornings when you wish someone stood beside you and said, "I am with you." But instead of crying over empty chairs, learn from the silence. Silence teaches self-conversation. Struggle teaches self-management. Isolation teaches self-reliance. The universe is not abandoning you, it is educating you. It is showing you what muscles of the soul still need to grow. Please stop introducing yourself as a victim of absent support. Introduce yourself as a student of hard reality. Because once you truly accept that no savior is scheduled to arrive, something extraordinary happens. You stop panicking and start preparing. You stop complaining and start building. You stop asking, "Who will help me?" and start commanding, "What can I do now?" And that shift, that brutal, honest, uncomfortable shift, turns a dependent human being into a dangerous force of resilience. One of the greatest tragedies in human life is not that people insult you, ignore you, or underestimate you. The real tragedy is that you stand there silently while they decide who you are. You allow the world to write definitively lines on your forehead because you never had the courage to hold the pen yourself. Listen carefully. If you do not speak for yourself, people will create a version of you that is convenient for them. They will call your kindness weakness. They will call your patience availability. They will call your silence agreement. They will call your sacrifice obligation. This world does not always study your heart, it studies your behavior. And behavior that never defends itself becomes easy to misuse. Some people have made an entire career out of being misunderstood because they think staying quiet makes them noble. No, my dear, silence is not always dignity. Sometimes silence is self-erasure. Sometimes silence is permission. Sometimes silence is the slow murder of your own identity. You keep swallowing discomfort because you don't want drama. You keep saying it's okay when it is not okay. You keep smiling when inside you are burning. Why? Because you are afraid that speaking will make people uncomfortable. But tell me something, why are you so committed to protecting their comfort while your soul is suffocating inside you? Why is everybody allowed to express themselves except you? This. Where education begins. Standing for yourself is not shouting, not fighting, not disrespecting. It is clear communication of self-worth. It is the mature ability to tell people this is acceptable and this is not. It is being able to say, "I deserve to be heard." It is saying, "Do not confuse my calmness with consent." Many people think boundaries are rude because they have spent their entire life trained to please. But boundaries are not walls against love, they are instructions for respect. If you never tell people where the line is, they will keep walking through your emotional house with dirty shoes. And let me tell you something powerful: every time you stay silent against something that hurts you, your confidence does not stay the same. It decreases. Your subconscious notices that when it needed protection, you did nothing. Slowly, it stops trusting you. This is why many people feel weak even when they have talent, intelligence, and goodness. Because deep inside they know, when I needed my own voice, I abandoned myself. Self-confidence is built when your inner self learns that you will show up as its defender. You cannot expect society to automatically honor hidden value. Gold buried underground is still unseen. You may be talented, honest, hardworking, loyal, brilliant, but if you never communicate your standards, your opinions, your limits, your contribution, people will interact only with the version of you that your silence presents. And silence presents uncertainty. Uncertainty invites control. So stop thinking that speaking for yourself makes you difficult. No, it makes you visible. It makes you defined. It makes you emotionally literate. Use your words. Use your posture. Use your decisions. Let people know that your kindness has a spine, that your patience has a limit, that your respect is mutual, not automatic. Because the moment you stop whispering your existence and start declaring your worth, people begin to realize they are no longer dealing with someone they can casually overlook. Everybody says, I want respect. Everybody says, people should value me. Everybody says, I am tired of being taken for granted. But I want to ask you a painful question: what are you tolerating every single day? Because the respect you demand with words means nothing if your daily decisions keep voting against your own dignity. Self-respect is not a motivational quote you post online. Self-respect is not a feeling that magically appears one morning. Self-respect is a construction project, built brick by brick, choice by choice, reaction by reaction. And many people are crying for a palace while they keep destroying the foundation with their own hands. You say you deserve better, but you continue entertaining people who repeatedly dishonor you. You say you are valuable, but you keep saying yes to things that drain your peace. You say you are exhausted, but you refuse to walk away from situations that keep humiliating your soul. Then tell me honestly, who is teaching the world how to treat you? You are. Every tolerated insult is a lesson. Every accepted disrespect is an instruction. Every ignored boundary violation is a public announcement that says, this much damage is allowed. People learn your standards from your repeated acceptance, not from your occasional complaints. This is the educational truth many don't want to hear. Self-respect is discipline, not emotion. There will be many days when saying no feels uncomfortable. There will be many moments when leaving a toxic table feels lonely. There will be times when not protecting your dignity costs relationships, opportunities, fake peace, and temporary approval. And that is exactly why it is discipline. Discipline means doing what preserves your future even when your present emotions beg you to avoid discomfort. Children chase acceptance. Mature people chase alignment with self-worth. Look at your own life. How many times have you betrayed yourself just to keep others happy? How many times did your heart scream enough, but your mouth said fine? How many times did you laugh in rooms where your spirit felt insulted? This repeated self-abandonment sends a dangerous message to your inner mind. Your feelings are negotiable. Your limits are optional. Your pain can wait. And once your subconscious receives that message enough times, you begin feeling smaller inside. Not because others are powerful, but because you stop proving to yourself that you matter. Please understand, self-respect is born in the tiny, unnoticed moments. It is born when you refuse to answer manipulation with obedience. It is born when you choose not to explain your worth to those committed to misunderstanding it. It is born when you walk away before your soul becomes a doormat. It is born when you stop apologizing for having standards. These are not dramatic, cinematic moments. These are quiet, private decisions, but these private decisions create a public aura. People can sense when someone has internal standards. And once you begin making these disciplined decisions, something changes in the atmosphere around you. The same people who once crossed every line suddenly become careful. Why? Because your behavior has changed the instructions. Human beings test access, and they continue only where access remains open. So if you want higher respect, build higher standards in action. Not one day, not when convenient, not only when angry, daily, consistently, unapologetically. Until your choices become a living announcement that your dignity is no longer available for discount. Why is it that one negative comment can destroy your whole day? Why is it that one rejection can make you question your entire worth? Why is it that one person's cold behavior can turn your inner weather into a storm? Have you ever asked yourself this? The answer is uncomfortable, because you have handed too many people the remote control of your emotions. They press one button, A. Like you become sad. They press another and you become insecure. They ignore you and you become restless. They disapprove and you become doubtful. Tell me, since when did your peace become a public property? Since when did strangers, relatives, critics, and emotionally inconsistent people earn this much authority over your nervous system? This is one of the biggest educational failures in modern life. People are taught to chase achievement but not taught to protect emotional ownership. You can have degrees, talent, beauty, income, intelligence, and still be emotionally homeless if every outside opinion can throw you out of your internal balance. Emotional weakness does not mean you cry. Emotional weakness means your center is controlled from the outside. It means your mood depends on responses, your confidence depends on approval, and your self-image depends on treatment. That is not living, that is psychological slavery. Look carefully at your patterns. Somebody leaves your message unseen and suddenly your mind creates 10 stories. Somebody criticizes your effort and suddenly you feel like quitting. Somebody chooses someone else and suddenly you think you are not enough. Why? Because you have built identity on reaction instead of reality. You have allowed temporary moments to define permanent self-worth. My dear, a delayed reply is not a measurement of your value. A rejection is not a certificate of inadequacy. A criticism is not the final truth about your existence. But when your internal foundation is weak, every outside vibration feels like an earthquake. Standing for yourself requires emotional sovereignty. It requires saying, I will feel things, but I will not be governed by everything. Yes, feel disappointment, you are human. Feel hurt, you are alive. Feel anger, you have nerves. But do not build a house inside every passing emotion. Learn to witness feelings without surrendering leadership. This person ignored me? Fine, noted, but my mission continues. This person doubted me? Fine, their doubt is not my destiny. This opportunity rejected me? Fine, rejection is an event, not an identity. That sentence alone can save years of suffering. Events are not identity. And let me tell you something, fierce people who casually disturb your peace are often not even thinking about you as deeply as you are suffering over them. You are giving preemie, like emotional space to temporary characters. You are losing sleep over people who have already moved on to lunch, meetings, selfies, and their own dramas. Isn't that astonishing? You are sacrificing your mental energy on people who did not even request that level of importance. This is self-neglect disguised as attachment. Take back the remote. Take it back consciously. Stop letting every opinion become an emergency. Stop letting every facial expression become a verdict. Stop translating every inconvenience into something is wrong with me. Build an inner room where not everybody has access. Because when your peace stops being easily programmable by external behavior, you begin to develop a rare kind of power, the power of a person whose mind no longer collapses every time the world changes its tone. Let me ask you something very honestly. How many times have you known the truth, but still stayed silent because you didn't want to disappoint someone? How many times did your heart clearly say this is wrong for me, but you still stayed because you were afraid of conflict, guilt, or losing people? This is where most lives are quietly broken, not by enemies, not by strangers, but by why the fear of disappointing others. And listen carefully, this fear is stronger than you think. It doesn't just stop your voice, it slowly controls your choices, your relationships, your career, even your self-image. You start living like a performer in someone else's theater. You smile when you don't want to smile. You agree when you don't agree. You say yes when your soul is screaming no. And why? Because somewhere along the way you learned a dangerous belief. If I disappoint them, I will lose love. But let's be honest, if love disappears the moment you become honest, then that was never love. It was conditional approval. And conditional approval will always demand your silence, your adjustment, your self-abandonment. The real battle is not with people. It is not with family, friends, society, or relationships. The real battle is internal, between your truth and your fear of rejection. And fear is very clever. It doesn't tell you stay weak. Number. It tells you be nice. It tells you don't create drama. It tells you keep the peace. But what it really means is betray yourself quietly so nobody gets uncomfortable. And slowly, without even noticing, you start building a life where everyone is comfortable except you. This is why so many people feel exhausted even in safe environments. Because they are not living their truth, they are managing other people's emotions at the cost of their own identity. And here is the hard reality. You cannot build a strong life while constantly protecting everyone from discomfort. Growth will always create friction. Truth will always disturb someone. Boundaries will always disappoint people who benefited from your lack of them. But let me tell you something powerful. Disappointment is not destruction. Disappointing others is not the end of love, sometimes it is the beginning of honesty. You will have to learn this painful skill. Allowing people to feel what they feel without abandoning yourself to fix their emotions. Because every time you choose their comfort over your truth, you are teaching yourself that your voice is negotiable. And think about it, who are you becoming when you constantly silence yourself? You become a version of yourself that is liked by many but respected by none, including yourself. You become predictable, agreeable, easy to manage, easy to overlook. And one day you wake up realizations. Like ye see, you have lived an entire life trying not to upset others, but you have deeply upset your own soul. Real courage is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is the quiet ability to say, I understand you may not like this, but I still choose me. It is the ability to accept that some people will walk away when you stop overgiving, and that is not loss, that is clarity. Because anyone who requires your self-betrayal for their comfort was never aligned with your growth in the first place. So stop negotiating your truth. Stop trading your peace for temporary acceptance. Stop building your life around the fragile approval of people who are not living inside your consequences. The moment you choose yourself, even when it costs you approval, you start becoming someone who no longer lives as a reflection of fear, but as a product of self-respect and inner freedom. There comes a moment in life when you must ask yourself a very uncomfortable question: how far can I go if nobody comes with me? Not if people clap, not if people support, not if people believe, not if people understand, but alone. Because most people measure their potential through the presence of others, not the power within themselves. And that is why so many dreams stay small, not because they are impossible, but because the person carrying them is waiting for company. Listen carefully, life does not always assign you a team. Sometimes it assigns you silence. Sometimes it assigns you empty rooms, unanswered calls, delayed responses, and doors that do not open when you expect them to. And in those moments, your true identity is revealed. Not when you are celebrated, but when you are standing in the middle of uncertainty with no applause, no validation, no emotional backup, and still choosing to move forward. This is where strength is born in the question, can I continue even if nobody understands me? Because understanding is not a requirement for growth. Approval is not a condition for progress. Applause is not fuel for discipline, but many people behave as if they cannot breathe without external confirmation. They wait for someone to say, go ahead, before they take a step. They wait for someone to believe in them before they believe in themselves. And in that waiting, life quietly passes them by. Let me tell you something deeply educational: loneliness is not a weakness, it is a training. Now, it strips away dependency. It removes noise. It forces you to meet yourself without distractions. At first it feels uncomfortable, because you are used to borrowing strength from others. But slowly, if you stay with it, something powerful begins to develop: internal authority. You start realizing that your decisions do not need permission. Your goals do not need approval. Your movement does not need a crowd. Think about it, every strong person you admire had to walk through a phase where nobody showed up. A phase where they were misunderstood, underestimated, ignored, or completely alone in their effort. But instead of stopping, they learned something rare: how to function without emotional dependency. And that is the difference between those who dream and those who actually build. You must learn to ask yourself not who will support me, but what can I build with what I have right now? Because waiting for perfect conditions is just disguised procrastination. Waiting for support is often disguised fear. Real growth begins when excuses end. When you stop saying, if I had this, I would do it, and start saying, I don't have everything, but I will still begin. And let's not be very direct. The moment you stop needing people to validate your journey, you become dangerous in the best way. Not dangerous to others, but powerful in direction. You stop being emotionally delayed by opinions. You stop collapsing when someone leaves. You stop pausing your life for reactions. You begin to move like someone who has made peace with solitude but married discipline. Because the truth is simple: life rewards movement, not waiting. It rewards consistency, not company. It rewards those who continue even when no one is watching. And when you finally understand that your growth was never supposed to be a group project, you stop shrinking your potential to fit the comfort of others, and you start expanding into the full version of what you were capable of all along.